We're going to stay seated for this session, and I want to kick straight off because I think Tom's rather ably set the scene for us today as we look at those issues, the sustainability issues. And I think Tom made a very valid point about, and it's not just the UK press, there's a lot of press from the States and in Europe that is pretty well anti-aviation. We are the bad guys in so many cases, I suspect, and yet we know that isn't real. A lot of the technology that's coming through, and I hope you've all watched the Arabian Aerospace Airport Show video that was out from the news programs this morning. If you haven't, well, you're probably not going to know what we're talking about, so worth doing before you get out of bed in the morning. And some of the technology we're seeing out there is going to aid us in the sustainability, the environmental improvements that we have about our airport worlds. Our goal, of course, is to make sure we tell people about how we're improving. And that's a personal plea from me to all of the guys on this panel and all of you in the room. All of us, are the PR people for this industry, and we get a bad name because we often keep quiet about it. So it's a personal plea. The opportunity now, though, is to hear the good things that we are doing and the challenges we're facing. Now, Tom said about that bittersweet experience you get sitting in Europe and you see the developments that are happening here in the Middle East. And one of the common criticisms I've heard both on an airline side and on an airport side is that, well, it's okay for these guys. They can just do what they want. There's no concerns about the environment. That is so wrong. I must say I've been impressed by what I've heard and seen in this region about how the airport developments are actually catering for environmental needs. And who better to actually kick off this discussion than Mariam Al-Balushi. And now, Mariam made a great point of saying she's the only female that's on the advisory panel, but she also cruelly made the point that she's the youngest person on this stage, which I think is why I'm making her go first. So, Mariam, tell us a little bit from the GCAA point, what's happening with the environment and the development of airports here in the Middle East?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Sabah al-khair. First of all, I have difficulties to hear you, but I heard that I'm the youngest person on the stage. My name is Mariam. I work for the UAE General Civil Aviation Authority, but before I go on the federal level, let me give you a brief of my personal experience. When I started in the aviation in 2006, I joined Dubai International Airport. As a first environment person, it was quite very challenging area for me. I moved from the oil sector to the aviation sector to do what I have done in the oil and the aviation. So, have said that, it was not an easy job to work in the airport and to start building an environment awareness or environment culture. Dubai Airport is one of the busiest airports in the world, and the operation is going faster than what you can cope. However, the challenge was always keeping me the opportunity to learn and link things which I want to do with what I'm studying, with what I have done. Today, I have a federal role. I'm interacting with mostly the 5 main airports of the UAE. I'm interacting with some of the region airports, and I will come to that shortly. But before I go to the airports and what we can do to reach the sustainability, I want to emphasize on something which people keep misunderstanding. Environment is not just what people think. It's a waste management, it's a nature conservation. It's whatever was said yesterday, it can fall under environment sustainability. It has 3 elements. It has economic growth, it has a nature conservation, it has a social impact on the life of the people living around the airports. So if we compile all the 3, I can tell you whatever been said yesterday about the locations, about the growth, about the routes, about the traffic management, about the expansion, it's all fall in the environment or the sustainability of the airports. Having said that, we all know that the environment is, or people keep saying to us, we are a cost, we are an additional cost to the operation. But we can tell you from our own experience that if you invest in the environment from the early stage, from the designing stage, you cannot just build an airport and say, I will take care of the environment on the commissioning part or on the operational side. We have to bring, and this is which I faced at the beginning until today, the miscommunication between the developer of the airport and the operator of the airport. We need to bridge this gap because I need to be involved from the design stage. I know a number of the region states now, some of them are sitting here. I cannot see the faces because of the reflection. But for example, I can see a number of the states, Oman, Saudi Arabia, Egypt. There is Abu Dhabi also, Dubai. There is a huge project for expansion. So why we need to wait till we get to the commissioning part and we say, yes, we have environmental challenges and we have to address them and we have to set the mitigation on the impact of our business. No, we have to emphasize from the stage A, when you start building your airports, especially those who are starting new, it's a chance for them to be engaged with the developer and set the environmental requirements because it will save you a lot of money, a lot of effort, and a lot of what we had, the culture change from the beginning. So it's my personal experience with the aviation. Just a small brief on what's going on here in UAE. I have, as I said, 5 airports. They are growing very fast. There's a huge challenge. It's different from one emirate to another. Abu Dhabi, they have started new initiatives with the sustainability group. They are now endorsing all the environmental elements. They are trying to build a green airport. Dubai airports, I had yesterday a quick chat with one of the vice president of the engineering project. They are dreaming to have the green airport, but the dream will never come to the reality if you don't engage the environmental expertise in your design stage. The CEO of Dubai Airports, Mr. Paul Griffith, told me we need to do some more initiatives for the lighting, for the operation, for the infrastructure, for many things, noise emission. But as I told you, it's more expensive now to work on the existing airports rather than starting from the fresh stage. I don't want to go in deep, but there is always a different level of requirements. One of the good experience I had working with the international forum, with CAPE, for example, Committee of Aviation and Environment Protection, we've been exposed to new research. Everyone knows that there is a huge negotiation going on the climate change impact and what we are doing as an aviation, but never been addressed before that. There is also requirements for us as an aviation or as an airport developer to address the impact of the climate change on your airports for the long term. There is a number of airports which I heard that in US closed because of the impact of the climate change on the aviation, because when it was built, it was not built to run for long term. So this is a lesson which we need to learn as a new airport developer or the owner of the airport or the operator, that we need to build our airports in a way that it will sustain with the climate change and all the weather aspect change, which is happening all around the world. I don't want to take more time. I need to leave some room for the interaction later on. Thank you.
Lovely, Mario. Thank you. I'm going to switch halfway across the world now and take a look at the United States, because I think for many of us, America kind of created so much of what we're doing in terms of volume and size. And I think Benito de Leon, the director of the Office of Airport Planning for the FAA, with us now. Benito, just talk us through the States and what you guys are doing as far as making sure the environment's cared for and sustainability happens.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank very much for the opportunity to be here today to talk about sustainability initiatives in the States. I think it's important that we share information across the world on best practices, lessons learned, no sense in reinventing the wheel. I'd like to take you back to 2010, the year 2010, when we first started walking down the path of sustainability. We had a lot of discussion as to what is sustainability. And I don't think we had a real good definition. We had a lot of discussion, disagreements. No one could define what sustainability was. A lot of us had worked major projects in the past. We had developed and constructed major runways across the country, balancing the environmental impacts with infrastructure development, but that was a project-specific type approach. And what sustainability really forces you to do is force you to step back a few steps and look at the whole airport and how the airport really lives in the community and environment and what role it will play. And so we didn't have a lot of information on what that would look like. So we decided to use some federal money and seed some studies. We funded about 10 studies across the country with a scope of work to help us define what is sustainability and how do we sell it across the country and make it a business case for sustainability accepted by all the airports. And so 10 studies started underway. We started getting information in. And what we saw a better definition, but not a real solid definition of a sustainability. There was still kind of disagreements of what it really was. So we issued a second wave of studies, 15 more studies. But this time we identified different various sizes of airports. We wanted the perspective of the large airport, the small airport, airports in dry climates and wet climates and cold climates. We wanted a perspective from all different angles. And so at that time we had 25 studies underway. And over the time, we started looking at the results, and what we started to see 4 things that popped out of all the studies, and 4 main things. And one of the main things that we found out is that you need to have senior management buy-in at the airport. Without that, the plans weren't going to be very successful. This sent a message to the people working the airport, sent a message to the community that people were interested and very excited about it. And secondly, we also found out that stakeholder outreach was very important. And this is not just talking to the airline tenants, the airport employees, but it's also talking to the community and bringing academia and other parties of interest that would help out with information that no one else had. And all working together really produced a good plan. And then the next thing we saw is that you needed to have good goals and initiatives. Goals and initiatives that were acceptable by all the parties around the table. And finally, you needed a good tracking device. You needed to track how you were doing against those goals and initiatives. And it was important to have the tracking device so that you could also make adjustments if needed. And that actually were 4 key things we saw in the 25 studies we have across the country. And also we saw 9 environmental considerations, things that you would normally see, energy, wastewater, recycling, land use, management of natural resources, and so on. So what we did last December, we compiled a list of best practices, lessons learned, and they're available on the FAA website. They're available to the world, to everybody who wants to look into it and tap into that information. Again, we want to share the information across all the airports. And so we have another wave of studies going out this year, hopefully emphasize getting more additional information. Our goal is to update our master plan of ISO circuit, include sustainability as an element, an important element in any long-range planning done by the airport. So we're pretty excited about that. We also, as we walked down the path, we ran into some issues that we didn't expect. And we were trying to incorporate some new sustainability technology into the airports. And of course, FAA, our prime objective is safety. And we had 2 issues I'll talk about is LEDs and solar arrays. LEDs were gaining a lot of interest in the States. That versus incandescent lights, because LEDs saves a lot of energy and money and so on. And so, but we had a concern because the LEDs cause a problem because we have a heads-up night vision display units on aircraft coming at night that couldn't pick up the signature, infrared signatures. So it caused a safety issue. And so we worked with all the industry and our partners and stuff like that. We came up a way we could use LEDs on airports. We actually limited to runways that don't have high-intensity runway lights, taxiways, aprons, and so on. But we didn't permit it on approach lights that have high-intensity runway lights or obstruction lights. We're trying to work that issue with the industry right now as we speak. So we found a way to make that go, but it was a challenge at first, but we had to make sure the safety was maintained. And then we had solar arrays. Solar arrays across the country were big and were being established all over the country. And about 4 years ago, we had issued 4 grants to install 4 arrays at 4 different airports across the country. 3 of them worked out really well. The 4th one didn't work out well. It was actually mounted on top of a parking garage, and the reflection that came off the array blinded almost our air traffic control personnel, which is a very big safety concern for us. And so what we decided to do on that one, we didn't want to let go of the arrays. We wanted to make sure that we could support solar energy on airports because it's very important because a lot of the airports would set this arrays up and they would generate energy. They would dump it into the grid, utility grid, and get credit for it. And so it's really a good business case for them. So we partner with the Department of Energy, and the Department of Energy has an objective to remove all barriers for new energy systems. And so they helped us think this out. And we tapped into one of their contractors in academia who helped us establish the standards on how we would evaluate this solar reflectivity. And what it is, we call it ocular impact. And what it is if you have a camera and you look at the camera while a picture's taken, you have an after image. And that after image is what causes the safety concern for arriving pilots and also for our traffic control facilities. And so what we did, with their help, we identified the standards to how to measure that ocular impact. And we even went one step further. We actually developed a tool that allows anybody, it's going to be available for free coming up in a few weeks here, that anybody can tap in and use it and locate the arrays on anywhere on the airport, put the angles of the arrays, and determine if it's going to be an issue or not. And if it is, you can use that same tool to move the facilities around and the tilt angles of the solar panels until you get to the point where it doesn't make a safety issue. So that's good news. So we support those two technologies. But as we embrace new technology, we've got to be careful how we embrace it not to impact safety in the airport. We also have some direction from our Congressional Congress. They have asked us to look at 3 new initiatives. One of them is zero-emission vehicles on airport property. We have issued guidance on what that looks like. We're hoping to issue grants this year to fund some projects to get more knowledge on what zero-emission vehicles look like. A second thing they asked us to do, they asked us to look at recycling. They wanted recycling to be universally accepted across the country. So we partner with industry because a lot of the airports across the states have already been doing recycling. We have a lot of consultants and interested parties that have a lot of knowledge. And so we, the FAA, said our role really is to provide guidance. And so we brought the groups together, and what we're in the process of doing is develop national guidance on how to incorporate recycling into the mass planning documents for airports. And the third initiative they asked us to look at is energy systems. They wanted us to look at increasing the efficiency of energy systems on airports. Now, this is really outside our arena, and we are working real closely with the Department of Energy to help us figure this out, where we can actually do energy assessments and actually fund projects that increase energy efficiency on airports. So that's something new, also ongoing right now. Finally, one thing else that we're looking at too right now is talking about climate change. As you've probably seen the paper and the news articles, the states have been hit by a lot of weather patterns, unusual weather patterns. A lot of hurricanes in the Gulf. You remember Katrina that really devastated New Orleans area for a long time. The recent Sandy hurricane really devastated the East Coast. We have some rising sea levels that are really impacting airports in the Alaska region and the Pacific. And so what we're trying to do now with the department is doing some lessons learned and start thinking about how do we address climate change, particularly since it's long range, and make investments so early. So as you can see, we've done a lot of things, but I think we have a long ways to go yet. So with that, I'll stop.
Lovely, thank you. Thank you very much, Peter. A lot happening on the ground, and I think we all know that there's a lot to be done in the air, really, because a lot of our environmental challenges and certainly the criticism we get, CO2 emissions and the amount that we're doing from A to B. And our next speaker is Bo Rediborn, who is the Principal Director for Air Traffic Management at Eurocontrol. And got some interesting stuff happening in the way that Eurocontrol and the ATM systems are going to help us with the environment, which in turn pays off for the whole industry. Bo, with you.
Thank you very much, and good morning all. Environmental concerns are the most important constraint for airport operation in Europe presently. So we try to do what we can. Just a few examples: Berlin, Brandenburg, which will have a night curfew. Frankfurt on the new runway also have night curfew, this coming more and more at the new runway. This is mainly about noise, but we also have issues about emission. So the question is, what can we do from the ATM side and the airborne side? And firstly, we can reduce the environmental impact of our operations and also make the most out of the existing infrastructure, and that's what we work on. On the first part, I'm going to mention 3 examples. The first one I like to talk about is Airport CDM, stands for Collaborative Decision Making. We have done this at 6 airports, fully implemented. and we hope to reach a target of 20 by the end of 2014. Brussels and Munich are two examples where the savings is €2.5 million on fuel alone for just actually interchanging better information between the aircraft operator, the airport authorities and the ATM. Real network benefits in terms of improved predictability and benefits for the arriving airport as well as they can plan their operations better. The second example, which is close to our heart when we have about 200 airports by the end of 2014, and many already apply that is continuous descent operation. This means that we try to avoid continuous leveling off on the way inbound. And for a 320 Airbus or a Boeing 737, the savings is about 200 kilos of fuel. And even if we do continuous descent from 10,000 feet and down, we talk about 100 kilos. And for bigger aircraft like 777s and Airbus 380, this is substantially more. We also, of course, try to do continuous climb departure, and that is an easier achieved thing in the beginning. We're also looking at changing the glide slope, the angle, in order to get a better result in terms of reducing noise. The third example that we are implementing or try to implement is the collaborative environment management. And we are in the process of finalizing a specification in Eurocontrol on how that should be done. And that is again about partnership, working together, aircraft operators, airports and the air navigation service provider. So these are three concrete examples that we do with a focus on reducing the environmental impact. I have two more examples that I like to take, which is about improving the way we do our business for the moment. The first one I like to mention is an extended arrival manager. We now have arrival managers systems at most places around the globe, but those are typically a way to accommodate the sequencing of traffic at a very late stage. We like to extend that back to maybe half an hour or longer before arriving so that we can optimize the sequence, but also accumulate any kind of delay in a more cost-efficient way, and by reducing speed further out, and by that avoiding holding when you actually arrive. And at the same time, maybe where there are opportunities to have aircraft speed up in order to optimize the flow. This is a very significant, again, saving of fuel if we can push that through. The trick with this is that you get into your neighbor's airspace, and you have to have an agreement with them that you can actually manipulate a little bit the way that traffic is arriving. And the final example that I like to mention, which is a real issue, is the wake vortex additional separation that we apply. The ICAO rule is like 40 years old or so. We had three categories: light and medium and heavy, and with the 380 we introduced a super heavy. This is an inefficient way of doing things, and we are working now together with FAA in particular, and also Russia, to try to come up with new ideas. The first phase will be completed this year, which we call RECAT 1. It's a recategorization step 1. These particular notions are not available in the ICAO vocabulary. For them, it's wake turbulence and recategorization, simply that. But also at the 10th Air Navigation Conference in November last year, the ultimate goal, which is the third step for us, is to have pairwise dynamic separation. So we take into consideration attitude, thrust, weight, wind, meteorological conditions, and all the rest of it. And the middle step, step 2, which we're now maturing in Eurocontrol, is to actually make a grid of more static pairwise, where we have actually 100, 110 types of aircraft that we can pairwise assess what is the needed minimum separation in order to address wake vortex. We believe that for a typical busy runway, the throughput could be increased with 3 to 4 movements every hour, which is significant at all airports like Dubai. Now, some of you may say that we don't have this problem at my airport, but I think if you do feel like that, do reflect over the fact that it might hit you rather soon, And by sort of piggybacking or copying good ideas, you can actually maybe address the issues in a more proactive way than we have been doing, because we're trying to fix this now when the problem is real. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's look now at the systems and the suppliers of the equipment that's going to help us do that. And we're going to turn to Michael Schneider, who's the Chief Executive of Siemens Airport Logistics in the Middle East. Michael, tell us a little bit about, from the industry perspective here, about the equipment, the developments that you're doing.
Okay. Thank you very much for inviting me to this distinguished panel. It's a real honor to us as a supplier to be part of these discussions. And basically, what we look at as a supplier is to provide innovative solutions, and we encourage the industry as a whole to look into innovative solutions at airports, approach airports with a more holistic way of looking at things, look at health checks at airports where you can actually establish significant amount of potential for improvement on energy consumption. If we look at huge hubs, airports like Dubai, like other huge hubs in the world, Heathrow, Frankfurt, you will see that there are massive systems, in particular on baggage handling, which have been set up, which consume a lot of energy, but also at the same time bear a lot of potential for energy consumption reduction. You look at innovative solutions in terms of controls, look at innovative solutions in how you deal actually with your passenger volumes, look at warehousing rather than conveying on a continuous basis. You look at also educating your own staff, but educating the people who work in an airport as such, or be the customer to an airport, to improve on their environmental consciousness. And we've had this discussion earlier, and I think Mariam touched upon that there needs to be a lot more of a campaign, also from a supplier, from a contractor's point of view, as well as from the industry and also from the whole airport community, to promote sustainability and environmental awareness in the same way as we've done that with safety over the years, which has shown a drastic improvement on safety and safety consciousness all over our industry. And I had a chat to one of the senior vice presidents of Dubai Airport, and I think we all agree that there needs to be a lot, or there is a lot what needs to be done in the future in order to improve, and little steps count towards the greater solution. These health checks, which can be performed on airport operations, are taken as a first step, and out of these health checks you develop like 200 plus different kind of ideas, where you then can focus on what is your short-term, mid-term, long-term approach on those ideas, on those steps, and develop actually business cases for a contractor as well as for a client, because at the end of the day, we're looking into making sustainability a social responsibility, but also look into make it a business case and make it a viable decision for everybody who is involved in this industry to actually engage in these kind of discussions and to transform ideas in actual reality. And if we look at the high consumptions of energy in this region as a whole, there's a lot we can improve, looking into our ways and means of cooling. An airport has a huge air-conditioned environment, which, if you look at how conventional cooling works, bears a lot of potential for the operators, in fact, to save and invest what they've saved into further sustainable technologies, and that snowballs. So you generate from one business case, you generate actually funding for another one, and that will improve, in our opinion, the airport's efficiency. It will improve the impact, the carbon emissions at an airport, and at the end of the day, it will serve the society. And that's, I think, what we're all looking at. And if we just listen to Benito, listening to rising sea levels and having the problems, I don't think the solution is that we're going to build a runway further away from the sea. I think we need to look into how do we actually contain the sea from rising? And those are the things we look as a supplier. And of course, it is a collaborative approach. Collaborative decision-making has been just mentioned. And there are so many different models which, from a community perspective, we can do. And we cannot exclude, I think, as a supplier, we cannot exclude our customers in those thoughts which we have, because at the end of the day, we want to serve a customer. In the same way, we approach our customers in actually including us at a very early stage in the planning in order to make sure we get the benefit out of the developments and the design and make it a sustainable design and for the long run.
So we've got the, the regulators pushing for it. We've got the systems providers and the technologists working for us. We've got the air traffic management systems coming. Then it all comes down to the airports in the end. And Mr. P.S. Nair, who is the chief executive of GMR Airports with Sabiha Goshen in Turkey and Delhi, and you're at that end, you're analyzing all of these figures, all of the analytics here. How does it work for you from the airport perspective? Please.
A very good morning to all of you. At GMR Airports, and as I mentioned yesterday, we have 3 airports. One, the busiest airport of the country, India, that's Delhi, Hyderabad, and Istanbul. We have been using technology in a big way for sustainable airport development. In fact, in terms of actions, all that has been told and highlighted by fellow speakers are all being done at our state-of-the-art airports. In fact, one area where we have been focusing is the focused attention of the CEO and the CXOs. You know, there should be an effective monitoring system, and that is what I am going to talk about. That is the airport analytics as a tool for sustainable airport development. Now, if you look at the existing scenario, you will find business intelligence and analytics do exist in some form at most of the airports, but it is yet to mature as an effective decision-making management tool. Even where it is existing, it's rarely used by the top management, owing mainly to the complexity in navigation. In fact, it's mainly used only by analysts and revenue managers. A single view dashboard to the CEO and CXOs and key decision makers helps in many ways. It results in sustainable savings on resources, time, energy, and cost. It eventually enhances customer satisfaction and also in improved airport safety, including the ground flight safety. Today, CSOs and CXOs need business information and day-to-day summary at their fingertips. Airport analytics enable immediate alert of all pain areas, monitoring of key business metrics, and spotting of new opportunities so that the bottom line can be improved. The business intelligence solution should address as we perceive, should address the top 5 areas of your business on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. The KPI should be turned to your specific requirement. Different airports will have, of course, different challenges. The dashboard navigation should be simple, and it should get to the root of the problem by touch of the mouse, 3 clicks. Validation of an identified problem or opportunity should happen through KPIs or analytics. Talking on GMR Airports experience, we realize that it is important to have clarity on what exactly we want to achieve with the business intelligence and analytics solution for the airport business. We also realized that identifying the right vendor vendor partner is the key to success. A business intelligence vendor partner who has thorough knowledge and understanding of airport business and proven track record of having successfully implemented an airport business intelligence solution will be the right fit, we realized. At GMR Airport, we were lucky to have a business partner, namely Graham Matters, who had all the above traits and attributes. Our implementation of the airport analytics, its title Airport Analytics AA+, ensured successful cross-linking of all major systems at our airports. It's truly envisioned as a decision-making tool with minimal intervention of our IT setup. Just as an illustration, you can cover the air traffic movement, even measure the noise level, and a whole, say, airside incidents, accidents, a whole lot of activities where they were in the trend of airline using where airport is articulated with all complete details. Continuing with the example of air traffic movement monitoring, the dashboard will have the ability to show any dip in the air traffic movement. These are basically commercial areas from specific airline, type of aircraft that has shown decline, specification, destination, origin of the dip, as to why it has happened. View same KPIs from the perspective that you choose. Immediate mitigation action can be initiated by the CEOs and CXOs by sending an email, sharing, and highlighting the problem areas to business heads and other concerned. Thus, there could be effective improvement brought in for sustainable development. This, each of the airport, different airport will have different way of addressing their own issues, and I cannot emphasize more than the points on the importance of managing airport today and in the future as to how the airport analytics can play a vital role for sustainable development. So don't get left behind. Airport analytics, I'm sure, is the key. And I think I'm telling from our experience, is the key to future airport business in order to win the race of sustained growth globally. Thank you.
So you've heard from our panel on those individual points. Now it's your opportunity to throw the agenda open. Question over here, please.
Good morning. I'm Indrajit and I'm an aviation analyst.
Sorry, can we have the volume up, please?
Okay, thank you. Is it any good?
That's better.
Okay, good morning, everybody. And my name is Indrajit. I'm an aviation analyst. My question is to all the environmental analysts of this world, but today it's in particular addressed to Mariam Al-Balushi. We were doing well inland, developing our airports. Suddenly we felt being surrounded by habitation all over, because yesterday we discussed an airport is an economic magnet. So all of you never restricted them. They came, surrounded us all over. We could not expand. And because no fault of ours, we were asked to move close to the shore. We did that, and we were successful to some extent till people chased us, reached us near the shore, then we went offshore. Now, we have very good examples of offshore airports, Hong Kong, etc., and so many more smaller and larger airports. There, tsunami chased us, and some of our airports got submerged, and they were even closed up to 1 month for the tsunami to subside. And don't take it very seriously. I'm generally flagging issues. So I find a bit of a dichotomy. You know, at times we want to enlarge our airports inland. We are doing it simultaneously. And then we are pushed away to far off places, offshore, like Hong Kong, etc. Is there any place on this planet where we can happily grow and live sustainably? Thank you.
Mariam,
Can I just hear the last question?
okay, is there any place on the planet we could actually grow and be sustainable? Airports are being pushed offshore in places, they get hit by tsunamis, inshore they get hit by growing cities, and what should we be doing?
So I think your comment or your question is linked with what I said at the end, the impact of the climate change on the airport. You've been pushed to change your location, and yesterday we were talking about how to choose a location, a proper location for long term. Or it was not mentioned to be in this way. I'm working closely now with ICAO, the International Civil Aviation Authority, and the International Meteorology Organization, to be engaged more in the research part of what you just mentioned. If we are going to build an airport, we need to make sure that it won't be affected within 10 years, 20 years with the change of the climate. And quite frankly, it's just establishment. That even the working group, we're trying to introduce a new working group within the international committee to address all these issues, because you are spending a lot of money. Some of the countries is even driven economically by aviation, and you don't want to lose your airport within 25 years. So if I got you right, currently we just figure out the problem, because the scientists, they came to us first in 2000. I remember in 2011, it was my first time to meet one of the meteorologists in one of the forum here. Then last year, I met one of the professor, and he always keep bringing all these cases to us to address them within the international organization. So this year, in February, we came to an agreement that we have to work jointly to help our sector as a scientist and the industry to come out with some sort of mitigation or long-term plan. And ICAO has taken a step to even review the airport planning manual, which I think most of the developers are working with. So this is what I have for for the current time, and I hope I answered your question. And I hope the airports will sustain for more time.
Because the interesting point of that, of course, is does anybody ever want an airport? And of course, as passengers, of course we want an airport. But I think our keynote speaker is going to be addressing that with London, for example. And you guys have all talked about the need to engage a local community. Is there yet a local community that welcomes an airport? And in which case, how are you doing it if you can get them to welcome it in the first place? Because everywhere I know, they always oppose it, or they're always critical of it. Do you want to answer that one first of all for me?
Yeah, I'd like to try that answer. In the States, we have every community has their own decisions to make. But it's surprising, in Washington, we get a lot of visitors coming in and talking to us about their airport. And in cases we get people coming in with their commissioners, their mayors, their elected officials, because they feel like it's really important to have that connection to the world. And we're finding out a lot of the airports in the States provide a lot of service that are not captured by design criteria and stuff like that. They provide medical service, they provide educational relief, they provide all sorts of things that we're finding out that an airport provides. And I think we're doing studies across the country to tell the story in a layman's term, what the role of the airport really is in the community. And I think a lot of people are coming around to the point that it is important not to have a big O'Hare in New York, but have an airport that it can use to access the rest of the world and provide services to the community. So we are seeing an uptick on that, where a lot of people are coming in and really supporting the need for the airport. But at the same time, they also want to balance the environment because they don't want to lose the environment. And I think all of us will agree in this room the environment is very important, because once you lose the environment, it's gone forever. So I think that they're making wise decisions, they're making wise choices, they're looking at all information before they jump to the bottom line, and I think that's the good approach.
Anybody else want to make a comment? Mr. Nair.
Just to share Delhi airport experience, on, to take the community on board. What we did was, of course, traditionally we had an airport environment management committee where, where the NCT Delhi, National Capital Territory Delhi's principal secretary responsible is the senior most civil servant responsible for the environmental aspects. He chairs that meeting where the whole lot of people are associated. But proactively, what we did was, that was a regulatory mechanism, hitherto. But we took the initiative to convert it into a collaborative sort of decision-making body, wherein we also associated the community, like resident welfare associations and other, the civic authorities and a whole lot of agencies together. And consequently, there's a lot of awareness created, as to how we can mitigate the common issues like the noise abatement and other community bird hazard, how to combat and things like that. I think so I would say during the past 1 year, it has shown results and tangible results.
Okay. I'll take one question from the floor over here, please, towards the back.
Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, everybody. I am Abdullah Al-Hamoudi from Global Aerospace Logistics Air Traffic Services Manager. Thank you for, ladies and gentlemen, for your important points in your speech. Ms. Mariam, as you working on General Civil Aviation Authority, do GCAA have any plan to exchange field visits with all of UAE airports? To exchange also your experience with them on environmental solutions and on the airports. Even that sometimes these kind of solutions connected with the finance side sometimes, but at least we have a start or beginning.
I will go back to the point which was raised from my colleague, the importance of the stakeholder engagement. I would like to share with you this experience we have in the UAE. I'm not working alone. Honestly, having my stakeholders around, it's keeping me existing in my current position. So I have the UAE National Environment Working Group, which consists of all 5 governments and their stakeholders, airports, air carriers, and developers, maintenance. All the peoples are working with us closely. Now we are working together on creating a national study for the whole aviation sector. Actually, tomorrow I have the first meeting for the baselines and for the initiatives going on in the UAE. Opening the door to exchange the experience and the views is happening, alhamdulillah. We have an awareness group working on introducing a comprehensive visits program, and we had set an execution plan for next year. This is because UAE, alhamdulillah, last year we have an environment policy endorsed by the UAE government for the aviation sector. It's the first environment policy in the UAE, and we are the first sector among all other sectors to have one environment policy, which is now being followed by the other stakeholders, like Dubai government. They are introducing their policy linked with our policy. The carriers, they are in step advance. They have their own policies, but for example, Etihad is linked with our policy. So we have a big action plan going on to exchange experience, views, projects, and to work on a collaborative level. It's a new, my section is 3 years old. I moved from the airport to the GCA 3 in 2010. So within 3 years, we have achieved a lot within the UAE aviation sector, alhamdulillah. This is also including the airspace group. So we are trying to collaborate and have an integration projects, so we don't work anymore in isolation. So in the group, I have the airspace, as I told you, the developer, the government, the carriers, the supplier, all of them together to have one consolidated project.
Marion, before we go back over there, can I, and Mike, if you want to start moving the mic over there for the next question, but can I just ask you, you do that within the UAE, but Oman, for example, has got a pretty good airport futures program coming on. Are you working across the GCC as well? Are you, as national groups, sharing information and working together, or is it happening in isolation?
Actually, I'm working at a regional level. I'm the chair of the Environment Committee for 22 states, Arab states. So one of the aims is to exchange all the documents, experience, and I just came from Morocco from the 6th or 5th meeting. Within GCC, we have established Environment Committee, and we are trying to have the same approach, is the exchanging of the information and trying to build the capacity. It's a fact, this region has the environment as a new trend. It's not history yet. When we talk about Europe, US, other states, it's been a long time. It's more than 50, 60 years now. They have considered the environment. Now within this region, we are developing. And I mentioned that there is 3 elements. We have to make sure that it's going in balance, the social, economic, and nature. So we are in the phase of exchanging, yes, views. UAE ahead, step ahead. In many things, we have exchanged the environment management plan of Dubai International Airports with all the Arab states. We have exchanged even the work of the group, the UAE National Group, how it's working, the terms of reference, the structure of the group is being just shared with the states. So we're trying to always to build this networking and have everything shared, because we need all the region to have the same standards of working in the environment.
Well done, thank you. And our very final question, please, over here.
Sunil Malhotra from Ernst & Young Practice in the MENA. Well, Alan, thank you very much for moderating and a great experience listening to all the speakers here. My question is about performance measurement for sustainability in today's airports. So I'd love to have your views in terms of what different performance measures you use at airports to measure sustainability.
Okay, what do you use to measure sustainability at the airports? Michael, thank you.
Maybe just from our perspective, from our airport projects, we obviously have measures in place which monitor our waste management as such. So we look into how do we measure usage of energy consumption. We compare that with statistics from last year. We look into how does traffic increase is projected in an airport for the next 5 to 6 years in an operational environment, and try and build forecasts in order to develop models as to how to increase efficiency and look into innovative solutions to be applied, because the innovative solutions are actually there already, and we need to look into how do we make that a viable case to present that to an operator at an airport in order to get the buy-in to implement such kind of innovative solutions. And if we monitor parameters like energy consumption over a certain period of time and then apply statistic analysis, apply analytics from an operator like P.S. Nair was talking about, and then build the cases around it. I think from a innovation point of view, that's how we could contribute in terms of performance management and look into how we actually increase the sustainability in the long run and publicize that as well. I think it's a lot what we have to talk about, and where and you mentioned it in the beginning, we need to go public about what we're doing for the environment in order to get that stigma away that air travel and everything around aviation seems to be not environmentally friendly.
Thank you. Do you want to say that?
Yeah, I just want to mention one thing. One thing we learned in this, you identify what you're trying to accomplish, make it pretty simple and clear, and that's easier to measure that way. We find that most airports in our country want measurement very simple and tell a story real fast.
Mr. Nair, final point?
Well, the only point I wanted to add is, I think he has covered it very comprehensively. I think two other areas, if I can add, is one is water conservation, other is oil spill, oil disposal. So these are the two other areas which is in our checklist.
Okay. And the one thing we don't want to do is be taxed for it, is it? Are we all agreed that taxation is a rubbish idea when it comes to challenging us on the environment?
I believe that, nobody wants to be taxed on it, but at the end of the day, we have to acknowledge that we have to initiate a change in mindset towards that kind of topic, because it requires a bit of a push here and there in order for people to understand that it is far beyond just a commercial case presented now. It's about the word says it, sustainability in the long run, and about what do we leave behind from our actions now for the future generations to come. And I think it's very important that also government initiatives are encouraging, not actually blocking, but encouraging these kind of developments. And I know that the UAE is in the region pushing hard for legislative measures in terms of emission control, emission reductions. And from an industry perspective, which I think picked that kind of development up very early in their innovation process, it is very important that that gets now pushed and made public, and also gets a bit of a kickstart from a governmental point of view, particularly in the region where energy is still very much affordable.
Thank you. Final point, Ove.
Yeah, just a few remarks on that. In Europe, we take a very much performance-based approach. And in terms of environment, we have developed tools for measuring in a very detailed way emissions, for instance, and then we can check airspace changes, the impact of free route airspace and things like that, and see that we actually are decreasing. We have another model for noise, and that is also when we do airspace changes, we try to actually impact fewer people, and if we don't, then we sort of back off and try something different, because the idea is to actually reduce noise, even though we have particular issues with that. Some people think it's okay to distribute noise in another direction than they have their own house, but I think that is a problem you have everywhere. The third area where we have developed tools which we use are the local air quality, which is also an environmental issue which is pushed very much. But the fact is that when you step into regulation, at least that's our experience, you get a several-year delay before you can get any impact. If you can have positive incentives, and that is a win-win for all involved, then the effect or the impact comes much quicker, and it's normally deliver a better result as well. So.
Fantastic, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize that we've run out of our allotted 40 minutes and we've grabbed a couple more. Leo, back to the stage with you. And ladies and gentlemen, please show your appreciation to our panel. Thank you.